Tonight, we're going to delve into the world of music video. We're fortunate enough to have the Senior VP of Content and Music Programming at Vevo. His name is Doug McVehil. I've known Doug for quite some time. How many of you have recently gone on the internet to view a particular music video? Okay. So then you're familiar with the genre, obviously. What I wanted to do before we got into Vevo 2014 is just to talk a little bit about the historical antecedents of music video. There was a time where MTV was the primary proponent of music videos. Yes, there was BET. Yes, there was country music television, Great American Country. But MTV was the resounding place where things happened and where it was the cultural hotspot. People actually would come home from school and go and watch MTV, and there was a countdown show, a request show called Total Request Live, and it was where you would find out which artists were on tour, who was coming out with a new CD, a new release, and in fact you get a chance to see your favorite video and you vote, and they do a top 10. Obviously, over the years, MTV has evolved and morphed into something quite different and distinct, and that void has been filled by, particularly right now, Vevo. But I wanted to just go back and have you understand some of the historical antecedents of how we got to this music video. Which, by the way, the term music video, which I just learned recently, was coined by the Big Bopper. The guy did Chantilly Lace. He was a disc jockey from Texas, if I think, his name J.P. Richardson, and he coined the term music video. So there was a point in time where music videos were made for entertainment in bars and restaurants. There were devices called Scopa Tones where you would put in a penny or a nickel back then, and you'd be able to watch some of the current day artists performing and doing their hit songs. It was started in France, and it was a thing in Europe, and it came over here, and it really wasn't a very successful medium. But there are examples of that floating around on the internet, early takes of Cab Calloway and the like performing, and that was called Scopa Tones. So that was one of the first early uses of it. Obviously, it was preceded by, there was a time where actually movies didn't have sound, and I guess the first movie that had sound was a film called The Jazz Singer, which some of you may have heard, and if you haven't heard, there was a remake done starring Neil Diamond about 15, 20 years ago. So in the States, the Scopa Tone thing didn't really catch on, so they tried another thing. It was similar called Soundies, and there's tons of Soundies on the internet that you can watch and you get a sense of what it's about. But I give the credit to a guy named Ozzie Nelson, who coincidentally was from, I believe, Teaneck, New Jersey. And he had a radio show, and eventually it became a TV show. And that was his son. And if I can cue this up, I want to show you what was the first use of music on television that kind of mattered. This was the first music video that was actually made specifically for television. I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops all over the world. 1961. And in every port I own the heart of at least one lovely girl. I have a pretty senorita waiting for me down in old Mexico. If you're ever in Alaska, stop and see my cute little Eskimo. Oh, my sweet Fraulein down in Berlin town makes my heart start to yearn. So some of you, maybe your parents or your grandparents, may have seen that. In 1957, at the end of the show, Ricky Nelson came out and sang for a group of people the Fats Domino song, I'm Walking. And then there was a flurry of activity the following week at retail record stores across America, young teenage girls coming in wanting to get that record, that song. And Ozzy, being a big band leader and an entrepreneurial businessman, thought, wow. So he quickly recorded it, rushed it out, put it out as a single, zipped up the charts, became one of Ricky's biggest hits. And subsequently, every week, it's a weekly TV show, Ozzy and Harriet, it would end right before the final commercial. Ricky Nelson would come out and sing his latest song. And it was a means to prime the pump, and Ricky Nelson became a huge star and probably the first music video star based on television. Then you flash forward years later, you have the Beatles, and then you have Kirshner Organization coming up with the idea of a knockoff of the Beatles called the Monkees. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Monkees. It was just a monkey fest here in New Jersey last weekend. But the one guy in the band who was a musician and really had it together on a number of levels was a guy named Mike Nesmith. And Mike Nesmith wrote some actual songs in addition to actually playing his instrument. And there's an early DVD that's out of print called Elephant Parts. And what this is a series of music videos to an album he recorded. So he recorded what was first viewed as the first music video album. So a smart guy named John Lack came up with the idea, let's get Mike Nesmith and get a bunch of comedians and have them do shtick, comedic bits, and intersperse it with these music videos. Because at the time, the record companies were making music videos to electronically tour their bands. So in other words, if a band was popular in England and they wanted to see if they could exploit that band in Germany or Sweden, or anyway, they didn't want to spend the money for tour support, so they'd record the band performing a song and then send that video over to those territories. So there was this whole library of these music videos that were just sitting in the record company's offices not doing anything. So John Lack said, let's take these music videos, intersperse them with comedians, and Mike Nesmith, who has this vision, will put this together, and we'll get some financing from American Express. So we'll get American Express, and then I need a media partner, so we'll use, at the time, it was Time Warner. It was Warner Communications. At the time was partners with, was Time Warner and American Express. So it was a combination of American Express, Time Warner, and this guy, John Lack. And they put this thing together, and they brought in some hotshot programmer of all places from Mississippi named Bob Pittman. And they put this thing together, and this became the early days of MTV. And that's how MTV became what it is. So it's people like John Lack and Mike Nesmith. And if you go and look at some of the history books, you'll see variations on that, because there's a revisionist history going on, obviously. So that's sort of a brief overview of why this is important. Why do you need to know about music videos, you know, in 2014? I mean, there's this rich history and all this other stuff going on back then, but why does it matter today? So I brought my friend Doug here, who now oversees the programming and content for Vevo, and he has a short little vignette which will show you a more contemporary version of how we got to where we are today from a music video point of view.
Hopefully.
So, hopefully. So we'll challenge technologically here.
Hey, there's one. Look at that.
But here we go.
All right.
So we should crank up the audio here.
Yep.
you want to show the video introduction, or would you rather wait to do that?
The other thing? Yeah. Let's do a little bit later, I guess. I know.
I can assure you there are numerous iconic visual moments in that little brief montage. So I'm going to ask Doug, we'll sit down.
Sure.
And you can keep that page up.
Cool.
So I know I helped get you here tonight, but I wondered if you might share with the class how you got to your position today. You started out, was it in Chicago or
Denver.
In Denver.
Denver.
Started in Denver.
Yeah, so I don't know how much you've told the class about your background in music video and the show that you did here in New York. But pre-MTV, actually, shortly before MTV, and then for the first probably 10 years or so of MTV, there were also what were called regional music video shows across the country in different markets across the country. Some of those were very Wayne and Garth style on public access cable. Some of them were more high production value. But all of them provided initially a place to watch these music videos you couldn't watch anywhere else. And this was actually a time when MTV was so new that it would be in some markets, like New Jersey and Philadelphia, but not be in other markets like Denver or Kansas City or whatever. It took them a...
If I remember correctly, when MTV launched, and again, it mattered back then, even the MTV executives had to leave the city and had to go to Fort Lee, New Jersey, because that was the only cable system that carried it locally.
To watch the launch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that time, there were these other shows to fill the need. And when MTV launched and continued to grow, it very quickly became a very mainstream, pop-driven outlet. So these shows at that point really became an alternative to MTV, where you could find things that you wouldn't find on MTV, whether it's heavy metal or the coolest new British bands or hip hop in some cases and all of that sort of thing. And I had the privilege of working at one in Denver, Colorado called Teletoons, which was around for about 10 years from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s. And I started as a volunteer schlepping these big, you wouldn't recognize them, 3/4-inch videotapes called U-matic videotapes from room to room and logging them into a paper cataloging system. So I feel really old talking about that. But I spent a couple of years working for free there just based on my passion for music. And at the same time, I was working in record stores and I was DJing in clubs and all that sort of thing. But at the time when I was programming this music video show where we played, mostly, alternative, British, whatever, underground music you wouldn't find on MTV, people like Steve from New York City and LA would be calling me and saying, "Hey, Doug, I have this new video from, I don't know, the Cranberries or whoever it was that I want you to play." And so I got to know a lot of people like Steve at that time, and eventually bolted my way into a job in New York. doing video promotion. So I went from the side of the desk where I was deciding which videos get played and which ones to expose to an audience to the other side of the desk where I was doing what Steve was doing previously at that time, and trying to get people like me to play music videos. Eventually that morphed into me growing within the company. Well, I did a short stint at Atlantic Records and then moved to Sony, where I spent the bulk of my career. I spent about 16 years there. And I started talking to those little shows in small markets across the country. I gradually took on the national outlets like MTV and VH1 and BET. And that was really exciting. That was a time when if you got your band added to the MTV playlist, it was a game changer. It really had the ability to take somebody in a matter of weeks or months from nobody to being enormous. And so at that point, it was a great job to have in a great business. As the business started to shift and shrink as digital music became the norm as opposed to the exception, a lot of marketing efforts shifted towards digital. At the same time, MTV drifted away from music video into their reality programming, and now everything, scripted and everything else. We played less and less music. So my position naturally morphed in that direction a little bit as music videos migrated online. And eventually, by the time I left the company in 2010, I was the head of digital marketing for Epic Records. And from there, I moved to Vevo, which was another fun move for me because it kind of took me back to my roots of being in a place where I could turn people on to music and spread artists and help them broaden their careers, and also use everything that I had learned at Sony in terms of digital marketing and publicity and video production and all of those things that I worked on there. So I've been at Vevo now just about 4 years. The company's been around a little over that. It was launched in 2009, December 2009. And that's how I got here today.
Okay, so let's talk a second about the structure of Vevo. Vevo is a partnership.
Vevo is a partnership. It was started by something called E-Labs, which was a small division of Universal Music Group, one of the 3 or maybe at the time 4 biggest music companies, music conglomerates. And the concept behind it, well actually I'll cover your question first, but so we're owned by Universal Music, Sony Music Entertainment, and a third partner, the Abu Dhabi Media Group, who invested initially. And this past year, we added Google as a major investor in the company as well. So we're diversifying beyond our record company roots, but we were started by the music companies.
Okay, so you said Universal?
Universal, Sony, Abu Dhabi Media Group, and now Google.
So what happened to the Warner Music Group? Well, not that you were there.
I think there was always such fierce competition between Warner and Sony and Universal that they didn't. I felt like, or I didn't feel. I believe that they didn't want to be a part of it if they were not a equal partner in it. And at that point, the partnership had already been determined by Sony and Universal, and they had offered a licensing arrangement to Warner that would be different than an ownership participation.
So to this day, they have no direct participation other than providing you with material.
And we do not. They are the one major company that we do not have a license deal with. So we actually don't have music videos from Warner Music, which currently isn't a huge deal because they don't have a huge market share currently, but in the history of music video, you look back and they have a really deep, meaningful catalog. So we continue to have conversations with them on and off about bringing their catalog to Vevo. And I'm optimistic that someday we will, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
So no Madonna videos?
No Madonna videos, yeah. Or no Madonna videos.
And where can one watch Vevo? I mean, are you global?
We are global. So Vevo was created with the mindset of this is a new age. Rather than build a walled garden where we have Vevo.com, where we put up all our videos and we say, everybody come to one place and watch Vevo.com, or come to Vevo.com to watch your videos, we realized that people's behavior was changing beyond that. So we said, we want to put music video everywhere that people consume music or might want to consume music. By doing so, we created a syndication model. So while we have Vevo.com and our owned and operated iOS apps and Android apps, Xbox, Apple TV, Chromecast, all of these different places where we actually control from soup to nuts ownership of the platform, we also syndicate all of our content. So the content of our partners, Sony and UMG and hundreds of independent labels. We syndicate that content through other third parties. So the biggest partner in that way is YouTube. YouTube is global, and our content is available globally through YouTube in 140 countries currently. Our owned and operated endpoints, meaning our iOS apps and our website and our connected TV platforms, are available in 13 countries currently, and we're expanding to additional countries this year. So that's a long answer to your short question.
So I can watch Vevo either directly through the Vevo website or through YouTube.
You can watch Vevo videos on the Vevo website, Vevo apps, YouTube website, YouTube app, or apps. You can watch Vevo videos on Yahoo. You can watch Vevo videos on AOL. You can watch Vevo videos on MTV.com and VH1.com and BET.com. We're basically, I laugh when I say it because it's a little bit cheesy, but you know, we are a well that serves music videos through many faucets.
Okay,
So
I'm naive and confused here. So if I want to watch a particular video, if I want to watch a Lady Gaga video, I can go to YouTube or I can go to Vevo? Watch
Yep.
it?
Yep.
And
Or you can go any of those other places, and it's still our player and our video, even though it's on somebody else's site.
so it originates from Vevo servers, essentially, even though it's coming through third parties.
And we,
Got that?
importantly, we're an ad-supported company.
That's what I was going to ask you. So what's the economic model here that makes money?
Right. Right. So Vevo was really created, to back up and give the big picture, Vevo was created as a way to monetize music video for the first time. Up until 2009, when this happened, for the most part, music videos were viewed as a marketing device. They were viewed as the movie trailer for the album or the CD, right? So record companies essentially gave these away to anybody that would play them. Me at some little video show in Denver, Colorado, and MTV when it was this baby company that you know, was just a dream. I've already forgotten. I'm spacing on the person's name that you mentioned who started it again. Black. Right, exactly. When that was just a twinkle in his eye, they started giving him videos for free. So year after year, they kept giving MTV videos for free. And over the years, it became the feeling of everyone in the music business, and really it is a fact that MTV built their business on free content provided to them by record companies. No record company or artist saw a penny from a play of a video on MTV, even though MTV was making money and building their business by selling advertising before and after and in between every music video they
But
play.
you should be happy because we're showing your visual content, which will stimulate sales of your music.
And it did at the time.
Right.
Right? And then two things happened. MTV started playing less and less music videos, and people started finding music in other ways than buying plastic discs.
And they were also making decisions that affected the success or failure of projects. There's the famous story where Sony, or at the time I guess CBS Records, had to pressure MTV to particularly play because they were not open to playing videos from African American artists, and the particular artist I think at the time was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there then.
I was not yet.
That was
I was there towards the end of the Michael
And so
Jackson.
the labels had this, it was this interesting dynamic with MTV and the record companies. It's like, we want you to play our videos, but we want you to play the ones we want you to play, and we want you to play them in the rotations we want, and we want you to respect our priorities. And at the time, Michael Jackson was a big deal.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, Sony or CBS at the time had to threaten to pull all their videos unless MTV decided to be a little more open-minded as far as playing artists such as Michael Jackson. And eventually, I think MTV caved and realized, you know, and of course Michael Jackson
Ended up
you
being
know,
their biggest artist for years and years and
right,
years.
which, if memory serves me well, it was a similar situation when dealing with the rap genre, where they were reluctant. They didn't feel there was enough software, music videos, if you will, to sustain a sort of rap programming, and they tried it as a one-time, and their ratings actually showed significant bumps, and then they launched Yo MTV
Yo
Raps.
MTV Raps, yeah, exactly.
So now, what do you find in your research or your awareness as far as musical genres that will move the needle for viewership or people, you know, requesting or watching particular videos?
We're an extremely wide platform, meaning that our audience is extremely broad, especially given the fact that our biggest partner is YouTube, right? So your grandma probably watches videos on YouTube, and your toddler niece or nephew probably watches videos on YouTube, right? So it's kind of that birth to death demographic. So naturally what happens is pop, as in popular music, rises to the top. And these days pop is, you know, Lady Gaga and Kanye West and, you know, all of the biggest artists in the world. So that's the stuff that really gets the hundreds of millions of views. But, you know, there's also an extremely long tail.
But you're telling me with this wide array of genres and music that's available, and there's videos for everything these days, still the demand is for the obvious mass appeal mainstream hits.
Largely, you know, we do our part to push other things, other genres and new artists and all of that, and we have a pretty strong mechanism and ecosystem for doing that. But yeah, the term popular is what it is. It means that, you know, what the most people like is what's in the pop chart, so to speak, and those tend to be on any given day the most watched videos on Vevo, whether that's Miley Cyrus or Taylor Swift or whomever.
So what chance does somebody who's making music outside of the mainstream really have? I mean, obviously you guys are very receptive, and I guess we can talk about the admissions process, but so basically you're saying the public just wants familiarity, so if it's some world music or a piece of eclectic jazz, the chances of it getting any sort of really traction.
Yeah, it's a combination of things, because, you know, I'm not going to push progressive jazz on somebody who's watching a Miley Cyrus video, but I do want to push the next Miley Cyrus on somebody who's watching a Miley Cyrus video. So maybe there's, you know, unknown artist A who we think will appeal to Miley Cyrus fans. We have a mechanism for surfacing that artist in a variety of ways. So if you're watching a Miley Cyrus video on YouTube, for example, and you see recommendations in the right-hand rail next to the player, guess what? We control those and may throw artist X in there because we think, hey, you like Miley Cyrus. If you watch this, you might like this as well. And so we help promote artists in that way and put them in front of people who would never search for them. We can also, you know, make sure that the right search results are showing up for the right artists, and try and put things in front of people that way. But we do it in a very careful, contextual way, because we don't want people to see things that don't mean anything to them.
So is there some sort of formula or situation, or is it a very subjective? I mean, I know Pandora has their process where they figure out, well, if you like this, you're going to like this, you might like that, you might like that. Where you're showing a Miley Cyrus video, is it just like, Miley Cyrus, maybe you'll like Demi Lovato?
It's a combination of human programming and algorithmic support, right? And we're constantly toying with that balance and trying to make sure that we have it right, because algorithms are great, but they don't always return results that are in context, right? So my favorite example personally is a true story from my personal life, which is, you know, I bought a frying pan from Amazon once, and for the next 6 months they kept feeding me things, you know, the kitchen utensils like I was a professional chef, but I wasn't. I just needed a frying pan, excuse my language, one day. So we try and avoid that sort of thing. You know, it's a balance between the human touch and the technological touch.
You know, taking it outside of your world, but you have Pandora, who's got this mathematical formula, and then I guess Beats has hired musicians, and I think that's always the argument. The musicians take the point of view as there's a subjectivity, there's a human element, and you can't put together formulas and say, oh, well, if they like that, they're going to like this.
Right.
It has to be a human being, somebody with some sort of musical involvement, passion, and saying, like that, you might like that.
Yeah, and it's curation is the buzzword, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, in this world of infinite choices of what you're going to watch, what you're going to listen to, what you're going to consume, how does one curate that for you? How do you become a trusted curator? And that sort of, we strive to someday, and we're a long way from this, but in different genres, to be that cool friend that knows everything about the coolest band, and you go to find out what to watch and what to listen to, and to be able to really have that trust with the user. We're a long way from that. We're super broad right now. We know we're not that, but it's it's on our roadmap to get much more specific and much more personalized, and hopefully be more like that.
A lot of companies will involve celebrity musicians, or celebrities in general, to be curators. And I wondered if you have done any celebrity curation. I mean, are there any channels or shows curated by celebrities?
We have a program called Vevo Guest List, which is a situation where we have, whether it's artists or actors or critics from Rolling Stone, or other people that are credible in different types of music, we have them on a daily basis provide playlists to us, which you can view on a portion of or a certain section of our platform, our website, or our mobile apps.
So it's called what?
Guest List.
So Guest List is available. So if I Google that or YouTube it, I can come up.
That's one of the function, or one of the content areas that's available only on our owned and operated, right? So I can delve into that a little bit.
You got to go to the homepage.
Homepage or our apps, right? And that's an important distinction. I mean, as we move forward, we talked about the business a little bit prior, and we can get more into that. But we're trying to, with Vevo itself, with our apps and our destination website, offer something different than what YouTube offers. So that's richer curation. That's more context. That's the celebrity playlists. That's original content that's not music videos, but is music centered. It's all of those sort of things that we want to have a home for, and help drive awareness of and traffic to our own destinations, as opposed to being fully dependent on YouTube for our audience.
And that's something, and naively I'm asking this, I can go there and at any time watch that, because it's like a file that that I can start.
Yeah.
And is there a list of celebrities, or is it each week it's a different?
It's rotating. So we have some people do it on a monthly basis. Some people do it a couple times a month. But there's a constant flow of them, and we have a destination on the website, for example, under shows, where it's called Guest List, and you can look at all of them.
And you could pick and choose who your favorite celebrity might be.
You can do a playlist.
I can do it. Anyone can do a playlist?
Well, anyone can. Certainly on our platform, we're built for playlists, and if you're a registered user, you can build a playlist on desktop and then watch it on your phone later, or watch it on your Xbox later.
And I can share that with a friend.
Yeah, but I was saying, you, special treatment. I'll put you on the guest list. You can do that. Because everyone's going to want to check out what you listen to.
Oh, yeah. If I'm a band and I have a video, I'm sure you get asked this a zillion times. So I'm on a Universal label. So there's a submission process. There's paperwork to be filled out, and then you and a committee view the videos and determine what might be worthy of.
Yeah, we talk to our content partners. Each individual label has a rep within my group who manage them on a day-to-day basis and keep up to date on, this artist has a new video coming on this date, and we have a new album from this one, and this one's going on tour, so we want to promote this and all of that. So they gather that information. The label has a process by which they deliver us the videos digitally. We watch as many of them as we can in our music meeting every week. We have to prioritize because we get between 300 and 500 new videos every single week delivered to us.
You get 300 to 500 videos a week.
Yeah.
When I was working MTV, if we had 40 or 50 videos, our eyeballs would just go, oh my god. You go to what? So you have to decide.
Yeah.
Between 300 and 500.
And some of those are catalog, because we're constantly building our back catalog as well. But yeah, we have more than 100. We have deals with more than 100 independent labels as well as all the majors. So except for Warner. So we have a huge volume of stuff.
So if I'm Atlantic Records, I'm going to go, I want to do it, Doug. We're going to start the Atlantic Records video channel on YouTube. And we'll give you our videos, but we're going to do what we want to do here. Now, can that happen still?
Well, Atlantic is bad example. But yeah, if you're at Joe X Records and you want to do that, and you're not part of Sony or Universal, yeah, you can still. You can't do it
if you're part of Sony or.
It's strongly discouraged if you're part of Sony or Universal. I don't think there are no artists that I know of that have done that on a regular basis. There've been a couple things that have happened as one-offs. You know, the U2 video that came out around the Super Bowl, for example, it was for charity. They didn't want any monetization, meaning they didn't want any advertising around it. So they had to have more control over that, put it in their YouTube channel as opposed to giving it to Vevo. So that happens occasionally, but it's certainly not the norm. But you know, the benefit to artists and to content owners, record companies, is that we charge higher CPMs, cost per 1,000 impressions, for pre-roll before our videos than YouTube does. So therefore, the money that flows through eventually to the label and then the artist beyond that is higher if they go through us than it would be if you go through YouTube.
So you're paying the labels or reimbursing them, or you're paying them for the advertising, the labels, and in theory the labels pass that money along to the artist, but that's something beyond your control.
Yes.
Okay. But are there...
We hope they do.
Are there artists, though, that come to you directly?
Yes.
Okay, so then if the band comes to you directly to play their video and there's advertising associated with that, would the money flow to the band, or would
it's whoever
copyright holder
is the copyright owner? Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we're watching 300 to 500 videos a week. Okay, so what chance does the Steve Leeds band have of getting put on your playlist, and what would be some of the, without divulging stuff you don't want to get into, but what would be some of the broad stroke criteria that somebody would have to do? I mean, I assume they have to provide you with lyrics, publishing information, that it needs to be copyrighted. So assuming somebody has their proverbial you-know-what together on that basis, so then what is it? It comes down to room? Does it come down to what people think?
I mean, there are a couple things. You know, if we haven't done business with you before, we have a content license, a standard content license, that we'll ask you to sign, right? We do that directly with artists of a certain level. So like Pearl Jam, for example, owns their stuff. We have a deal directly with them. Daddy Yankee, same thing. We have a deal directly with him. We're not going to do that with the Steve Leeds band, simply because there's work involved with that, and you know, we have a lawyer look at it, and we have, you know, all of that sort of stuff.
Sign some sort of.
You have to sign something, and we work with a variety of smaller distributors who will for the Steve Leeds band.
So I could go to a third party. I could go to something like a TuneCore.
TuneCore, exactly. Yeah, Empire Distribution, somebody like that, and they will get it to us, and of course they'll take a piece, but they'll also administer it, and they know how to deliver it to us, and all of that sort of thing. So there's that. In terms of what, you know, we put everything we get up, right? The question is, do we promote it? So
you put everything you get,
it's added to our library.
So you're adding between 300 to 500 videos a week?
Mm-hmm. We have 100,000 videos currently available to view on our platform.
So if anybody goes through the correct process and behaves themselves, there's a chance that Vevo will make it available.
Yeah.
That doesn't say you're going to promote it or anything like that, but it is available to people to find.
It's available, and importantly, we don't censor. We put things up as artists want them to be seen. So, you know, we don't ask them to remove bad words. If there's nudity, we'll deal with that. Obviously, there's a line at some point where we say no.
Well, would I see the original, the unexpurgated Blurred Lines video?
You will, yeah. That was
so I can go on and watch that.
Right. You can watch that on Vevo. Yeah. Yep.
So it's a pretty open forum.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you would draw the line at and say, I mean...
Well, I mean, I think, what's the definition of pornography? You'll know it when you see it. Is that kind of the...
mean, there was a really, really hardcore early days 9-inch
Nine
Nails.
Inch Nails closer. We have that up.
Wow. And those are videos that MTV wouldn't touch.
MTV wouldn't touch, yeah.
Or most other outlets. So
Yeah.
it's a totally free environment.
Mhm. We have parental advisory, something says it's explicit when it's explicit, but it's there.
And an individual band, even if it's like shot on Super 8, or maybe it's shot on an iPhone, that would be, I mean...
We do, okay, so we do have certain...
Minimum standards.
Minimum standards, right. It has to be delivered at a certain, quality, exactly. Quality is kind of subjective, right? But in terms of the specific technical requirements, there's a list of those. But yeah, if an artist shot something on this, and it was
bumped up to a quality.
It was bumped up to quality. We would upload it. Importantly, as part of our business model, and it's one of the things that differentiates us from YouTube and allows us to charge more money for our advertisements than YouTube charges for the things that they sell direct, is that we have created a premium environment, right? What does that mean? It means no cat videos. It means no copies of videos. So not, somebody like took their camcorder and filmed the video off TV and then uploaded their own version. It's all premium, and we can ensure advertisers that their ads only going to run in front of quality things, right? There's not if I ask anybody what the definition of quality is, they're going to have a different answer. So there's no real there's no real guideline to that other than the technical specifications that we give. So creatively, you might think something's quality that I don't think is, but
you're letting the
letting
public decide.
Exactly.
One of my challenges at MTV always was the standards issues, where I'm sure you fought that, and then when I worked there, having to defend some of that stuff was difficult. There was a video from a small indie band, and the most of the video was somebody shoveling money into a furnace, burning. And I didn't know, but that's a federal offense. We can't show that. We'd be breaking the law and encouraging people to do that, so we're not going to show that video. And here's this little band that spent, a couple of grand, whatever they had to make a video, and that was the crux of it.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, in our licensing agreement, we're basically indemnified against whoever's licensing the content to us is going to take responsibility for the content of the
So if
video.
there's somebody in there that's libeled or slandered in the video, it's their problem,
If there's
not
a
yours.
big Nike logo that they didn't get cleared, or whatever the case may be, yeah.
That's quite amazing. Freedom exists.
Freedom exists
in
at
the
Vevo.
video world at
Yes.
Vevo. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Any of you guys have any questions you want to throw right now? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I actually wrote it down. So I know you said that independent people that aren't with the label could do it through a third party like TuneCore. But what would the process be? You said you put every video up, if it's given to you the right way. But what would an independent artist do to get promoted on Vevo Destinies or something?
It's an excellent question. Well, if you go through an aggregator, as we call them, like TuneCore or Empire or someone like that, they have someone that's designated to talk to us and to promote their stuff through us the same way a Steve Leeds would from Columbia Records or whatever. So at that point, it's about you as the independent artist making sure that the people that you've hired essentially to get us the video are doing that for you. Or you can Google and get somebody's name and figure out their email address and just bug them until they do it. We do have people do that as well.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
In terms of, you said you have the third party presents it a certain way. Is there a certain formula that you can possibly do us to cut out that third party? Present it to you and get our videos promoted, because we can't promote ourselves.
Yeah.
We're only as because the promoter is going to promote it. So
Yeah.
however we do it, however we do our job.
Yeah,
Is there a place they can go to get the paperwork?
there is not. It's something we would like to do, is to have almost a self-service way of doing it at some point. We're just not there yet. You know, I think the
Would you
Yeah.
call up and say, I want to talk to the acquisition department?
You could call up and say, I want to speak to somebody in programming, and they'd put you through to JP, who works for me, JP Evangelista, and he'd hear you out probably. I mean,
He'd be okay to email you the paperwork.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's the number?
Come see Steve afterwards. Yeah.
I know you had a question. I was messing around on the internet and I noticed there's a company, music video something or other, and if you give them your video, and I'm sure there's a fee ascribed to it, they will service it to all the national video outlets, including you. So there are these third parties
Yeah.
that, I guess they charge you to make a living off it,
Yeah.
but they cut through the red tape. This gentleman uses that to make the phone call.
Right.
And for a fee,
They'll get it up there. They don't have a relationship with us in terms of, hey, you should promote this one or not. They just really take care of the functionality. Same as getting audio file up on iTunes.
right.
You know, making sure it's on iTunes and Amazon and all of that. There are companies that'll do that for artists as well.
So to that gentleman's question, so then what things would your programming team respond to take some obscure, unsigned band and go, wait a minute, something going on here. I noticed it's
Right.
getting, I mean, what are the
Right.
what are the earmarks of something showing it,
Right.
raising its hand and going, I'm more than just some.
Right. Yeah, there's no formula. Sometimes it's just an amazing video, right? It's a video that makes you go, oh, holy, how did they do that? Or that's cool, that's great. Sometimes it's an amazing song. Sometimes it is a combination of a great song and, wow, look, these guys have X number of Twitter followers, and these guys have, you know, X number of Instagram likes. You know, that sort of thing. We look at social media. We look at radio to an extent. We look at sales to an extent. So it's a variety of things, not that different than what MTV used to look like back in the
Is there any way to gauge requests?
Well, yeah, there's demand, absolutely. We gauge searches, you know, and we gauge likes and dislikes. So if if those people that do watch the video, you know, you can give the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and we pay attention to that as well.
So forgive my naivety here. Is there a Vevo chart that you can?
There is, if you go to the browse section of any of our apps, there is, you know, you can watch most viewed today, you can watch most viewed this week, most viewed this month, most viewed of all time, most viewed rock this week. You know, you can really delve down into what you're looking for.
Okay. You had a question there?
Yeah, two, kind of. So, you put on a whole bunch of videos that other people have got you. Have you considered, with that other avenue for content production for Vevo to kind of generate your own traffic from the inside? Tying into that question is, have you considered carrying some of your own MTV platforms like TRL type TV radio or something similar to that?
Yeah, so we actually do create original content on our own, and there's a variety of stuff. Some of it's live performances, some of which we live stream, some of which we just film and then put up as video on demand later. Video on demand meaning, you know, just an individual clip that you can watch at your leisure. Some of it is, you know, stripped down acoustic performances. Some of it is an artist. We have a show called Go Shows where an artist shows up somewhere unexpectedly and performs for whoever's there. So we had like Fabulous on the Brooklyn Bridge and Airborne Toxic Event on a city bus in LA, things like that. We can actually show a sizzle that shows some of our content if you want to do that.
Why don't we do that now?
Yeah. It's all, everything has music at its core, even if it's not an artist performing in front of camera. So it's not the real world or anything like that yet. So no, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean yet. It won't be. What I'm going to show you actually, this goes back to, I'll circle back for a second. We started talking about the business model and we didn't really get to it, but so we told you about how the industry felt like, the music industry felt like they had built MTV, or MTV had built itself off the backs of artists and record companies without driving any revenue or paying those people anything. So part of the impetus for creating Vevo was, okay, how do we actually make money off of the fact that millions of people want this, that there is demand for this in the same way that there's demand for a football game or a basketball game or things like that that get huge advertising dollars. And so Vevo was created as a way to do that. And therefore, all of our income comes from advertisers. We don't have a subscription model. We don't say pay $9.99 a month and we'll let you watch all the videos you want without ads yet. That might be something we do at some point, but currently we're completely ad supported. So what I'm about to show you is something that is created for what's called the Upfront, which is an annual week in New York where all of the advertisers go to all of the different networks, television and internet, so NBC to Google to Vevo to Pandora to Spotify, et cetera, and see what they have to offer. And we, in turn, put our hands out and hope to get some money from those advertisers based around our programming. So what I'm about to show you here is a reel that was presented to them last year. It's a little bit out of date. We're working on this year's now. It happens in May, but this reel outlines the originals that we presented at that presentation. There's the player.
Access beyond anyone's reach. Experiences like no other. Exclusive shows powered by Vevo. Vevo's original programming brings music your way like never before. In Go Shows, we shock fans with surprise performances in the most unbelievable places. What's the highest mark of music video success? 100 million views. In Certified, we seek out the biggest fans to celebrate this milestone by presenting an award to their favorite artists.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Vevo Presents delivers never-before-seen live experiences with music's biggest names. Get close to Pitbull at Carnival. Take in a secret show from Kanye and Jay-Z. And hang alongside Maroon 5. And You Play Like a Girl. Superstar drummer Samantha Maloney is hitting the road to find the most gifted young female musicians.
I don't care about being famous. It's more if I can get my word out there.
With help from a pro, they're on their way to changing the game.
Why are you crying? I know.
Want to go backstage with your favorite artist?
You about to get your first glimpse.
On Tour Exposed, you get an exclusive look at how a show comes together.
I had to spend a little extra time here getting on my harness. Yeah, baby.
In Lyric Lines, we send internet celeb Tommy Wooldridge to pick up girls using only song lyrics. It doesn't always go so well.
Hi. Tell me what you like. Yeah, tell me what you don't. I could be your Buzz Lightyear fly across the globe.
Yeah, you.
Welcome to the Comment Show on Vevo.
On The Comment Show, host comedian David So tells the haters who's boss when he blows up their off-base commentary for all to see.
Kanye is king and you are a stinky-ass peasant.
Wouldn't that make you a peasant too?
In Stylized, we dive into the dopest wardrobes from the hottest acts around.
I take on a different persona when I'm on stage, so I like to wear kind of edgier stuff.
Artists like Demi Lovato, Carly Rae Jepsen, and Amy Lee from Evanescence talk about what influences their personal style and how they get their killer looks. Music is My Sport follows musicians at the top of their game
It's repetition, pushing myself to places I didn't think I could go.
and looks at what it takes to stay there.
It takes intense training to do what I do. No time out.
Want to know where stars really hang out?
Today, we're in the Latin music capital of the U.S.
In Sound and City, host Desi Sanchez takes you to the coolest spots in our favorite towns.
When you had Gladys Knight chicken and waffles, you should have chicken and waffles.
Each Friday, we recap the best of what's new with Hot This Week, a rundown of the hottest video premieres, interviews,
How can I more intensely challenge myself?
and must-see performances, exclusive to us. Lyft presents viewers with the next big thing before they see it anywhere else. For 3 years, McDonald's has partnered with Vevo on this one-of-a-kind music discovery program that has introduced new artists like One Direction, Kendrick Lamar, Casey Musgraves, Mindless Behavior, Paloma Faith, and Jessie J to the world.
Vevo have been so supportive of me from day one, and now Price Tag is at like, what, the fourth most viewed video I think in the UK of all time.
Over 1,100 episodes, 500 million views. Quality shows, massive audiences. Vevo original programming.
So that's an overview. This year we're actually developing about 10 more original concepts that we'll be presenting the first week of May.
Wow.
Yeah, glad I brought the clip. There you go. I don't know, Steve, what else? Do you want to play the overview video?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay,
That's a good
so
Yeah.
also shown at our presentation last year is an overview of the platform and what makes us different from others. So this will give you an idea of how we position our business to the rest of the media world.
When audiences around the world watch their favorite music videos, they're watching entertainment powered by Vevo. Most music viewing experiences happening at this very moment are taking place across our platform. Vevo videos draw 235 million global visitors online each month and 46 billion cross-platform views a year, or 6 views for every person on the planet. We reach over 50 million US viewers a month, 60% under the age of 34. Vevo is the #1 music video platform. And the power and reach of music is unparalleled. Our viewers are as diverse as the artists we feature. We reach 1/4 of all US women watching videos online today. Who run the world? Girls, who run the world? Girls.
Hold up.
We are the leading premium video source for African American viewers online. And we have 2.5 times the online viewership of Univision and Telemundo combined. We connect your brand to the audience you want, targeting viewers across platforms, genres, artists, and premieres. Our viewers return often, they're engaged, and they share their passion with others. 51% of US views are on smartphones and connected TVs, and these viewers spend over an hour each month watching Vevo-powered entertainment. Today, we power more entertainment experiences than almost any other provider. We attract the largest youth audience outside of YouTube, with a higher proportion of 18 to 24-year-old viewers than Viacom, Facebook, Buzz Media, or Hulu. And our total US audience is bigger than NBC, CBS, Fox, and Hulu's online audiences combined. That's the scale and reach of music. That's the power of Vevo.
So that's a little salesy, but gives you an idea of some of the numbers. Again, this is about a year old. We're now averaging about 5.7 billion video streams per month around the world, 5.7 billion per month, which is pretty unbelievable. And an important point there that's also a trend that's continued is the desktop consumption, I don't have to tell you guys probably, it continues to plummet while mobile and connected TV continues to go way up. Our Apple TV app and our Roku app and our Chromecast apps are growing extremely quickly, and what we find is viewers there, because it's on a big screen in their living room, are watching a lot more videos than those on their phones or on desktops. So while on phones the average Vevo user spends about 46 minutes per month watching videos, the average user on Roku watches more than 400 minutes per month watching videos. So that's a good sign for us for the future as more people go to those platforms. Is it time for viewer mail?
I think it is time for viewer mail, although I noticed the increase in programming.
Mm-hmm.
Remember at MTV felt that if they showed some random video clips, X amount of audience. But if they packaged it and called it, Doug McVehil Video Hour, there'd be more interest in it because it actually had some theme and content to it. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the reasoning that you guys are doing some of that programming? Not
Yeah.
that you guys are ratings conscious, really, but
Well, we're judged. My team is judged on how many views we drive, right? And so it is part of driving views is providing that context and packaging things in a way that's going to make them easy to consume, and in a way that you don't just come and watch one video. You come to watch one video, and guess what? You see something else that keeps you there watching additional videos after that. You go down the rabbit hole, and next thing you know, it's morning. So our programmers are constantly trying to figure out ways to do that. We implemented on our web product in November something that a lot of media companies are doing online, which is a feed, which is 24 hours a day. Posts that pop up with different thematic playlists, with packages of shows, with different things that are similar to what you're saying in terms of ways to take people from a single video experience to keep them watching longer in the same way that MTV wanted to.
okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I just got one more quick question. You, in the last video, or the one before that, you mentioned about that you were doing live streams or performances in venues. So that's a really heavy kind of situation. So I want to know, how are you handling like the concert promoters, venues, and getting profit or how they get profit? When to air something, who's letting you? Like that whole kind of mess.
Yeah, it is a mess, and it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. At the end of the day, the artist runs the show, right? So if you can get the manager and the artist on board, they will help navigate the rest of that mess normally, because they're the one that can go to the promoter who put them in the building and say, we want Vevo to do a live shoot from here. They will sometimes, the venue will charge us an origination fee where we have to pay, X number of dollars. It could be from a couple $1,000s to, if you do Madison Square Garden, I don't even want to speculate, but it's $50,000 or $100,000 easily. I did just speculate. I didn't want to, but I don't have much self-control. So yeah, so there are a lot of things that have to align.
As Doug said, you got to get the artist. The venue may have an origination fee or not, and then the stickler is always the union.
Mm-hmm.
They have their hand out. Well, we should, so sometimes the cost is prohibitive. There are some venues that are non-union, and they're more than happy to have the promotional exploitation, but.
Yeah, big difference between the costs of shooting something at a union venue versus a non-union venue. So
is there a good ROI on your
Actually, I'm glad you asked that, because it's a good point that people have misconceptions about at some points, or in some cases. So live streams tend to be more of an attention getter than an actual view driver, so to speak, right? So we're in a world where people don't set their watch to go, oh, it's 9 p.m., I need to go to Vevo now to watch this live stream of Nine Inch Nails. They're going to say, either they're going to forget about it, not know about it, or not care enough to tune in right at that time. People have lives.
But you archived it.
But we archive it. Everything we do live, we archive and make available as on demand immediately afterwards. So that's where the bulk of the views come in. I mean, really 99% of the views come from that on-demand content that's after the fact. But the live event is important to advertisers, and it raises awareness in general that something's happening. But the bulk of the people will hear about it or read about the fact that it happened live, see a review of it, see somebody post a clip of it, rather than actually tune in and watch it. And then when they hear about it, they're going to come to us to see it
Something
on demand.
Can't ever replace the spontaneity
It's really
of
hard.
Live.
Yeah.
It's like you're there.
An important way to look at it, or a good way to look at it, I think, is, a football game you want to watch live, because there's stuff happening, there's stakes, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And you can experience that rush and that adrenaline at home, not the same way you can in the stadium, but you can, right? concerts music is just a very different thing. There are no stakes. There's not. You don't have to watch it right then to find out what happens, unless it's something.
But then there could be
extremely
something
out of the
special,
norm. Yeah.
and you could be left out of the mix.
Mhm.
I mean, how many people knew immediately and then the next day with it when Billy Joel played Madison Square Garden Friday night, Brian Johnson from AC/DC came up.
Mhm.
So aside from social media, and there would be bootlegs, so it's not fair to put, but the point being is a lot of people saw it the next day.
Yep.
Because a lot of people use their phones to videotape that performance and made everybody aware. So there was something special and unique about that concert
Mhm.
that if you were there, and if you were so fortunate to have a stream of it, to be like, wow, Brian Johnson playing with Billy
Right.
Joel.
Right.
Of course, that's not the reality.
Yeah.
I just want to go to some of the questions, and Alan asked a couple of interesting questions. One is, could you detail the various revenue streams associated with Vevo?
Well, it's advertising and advertising. That's really those are the revenue streams for us currently. Everything is based around our ability to sell ads to brands who want to reach our audience. So those pre-rolls that you see before videos and those overlays, those are what keep the lights on.
The other question he asked was, being associated with the first and second largest search engines in the world, Google and YouTube respectively, one would assume there are various benefits, but what are some of the disadvantages? Turn this off.
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question, and it's something that's being broadly covered in the media press. Is Vevo, along with other media companies that are referred to as MCNs, meaning multi-channel networks within the YouTube environment, are very dependent on YouTube to deliver that huge audience that they have. So other examples of multi-channel networks would be Machinima, Break Media, Awesomeness TV, companies like that have more than one YouTube channel. That's where multi-channel comes in, multi-channel network. So multi-channel network puts together the network of channels and then sells advertising for those channels. So Vevo is kind of the biggest of those multi-channel networks. The advantage to having that partnership with YouTube is simply the scale, right? The fact that they're global, they're in 140 countries, which they put us in front of, and people are already there. We don't have to bring an audience to us; they're already there. The downside is that we're dependent on them for all of that, for delivering that audience. The revenue we generate on YouTube, we have to share with YouTube, right? So if somebody watches a video on Vevo, we don't have to share that. But if they watch a Vevo video on YouTube, YouTube gets a piece of that. So that's another downside.
A lot of the questions similar ask about the connection between you and YouTube, and questions like well, what would Vevo do without the YouTube connection? Would it be a smaller entity? Would it have less?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and a lot of people ask, so why didn't you just, when you created Vevo, take all the videos in one place and put them on Vevo and take them off of YouTube, right? And the reason for that is that they already had the scale, and the fact is, every time you launch in a new country, that's a huge investment in both people, in marketing, and in infrastructure. And it would take us 10 years to get in 140 countries. You have to clear, most complicated part of the process is actually clearing rights, publishing rights in particular. Work differently in different countries, or owned by different people in different countries. So you can have a song, you can have a Billy Joel song, he's probably a bad example, but you can have a song by an artist that's published by one company in the US, administered by another company in the UK, and another company in Poland, another company in Latin America. So it's a tangled web that's hard to navigate. YouTube already had that worked out in most cases. We also, we want to help artist careers. We don't want to hurt artist careers, and by putting artist videos where the audience is, that's helping an artist career. By limiting the audience, by putting it somewhere that less people are, isn't good for anybody.
Okay. Megan asks a different type of question. What are the attributes of a video that makes it go viral?
That's a good question. It is a good question. People. One of my favorite things when I worked at a record company in digital, and we'd be putting together plans for artists, and they'd say, "Well, we need to make a viral video." I say, "Well, no, you don't. You can't decide like, okay, for this one, we're gonna make a viral video. It has to capture something that makes people, in most cases, laugh. That's I think kind of usually the most important thing, or just be so different and out there that it's something that you want to share. It's taking advantage of the fact that in addition to being a huge search engine, YouTube is really part of the biggest social network in the world, and that those videos are shared more than any other content on the web. So you want to make something that's going to get that emotional reaction from people, whether it's laughter or something that moves people to tears or whatever the case may be. Those are the things that people are going to share. It would drive me crazy when we were making music videos when I was at Sony, and the band would want to make a performance video, just a band sitting there performing. It's like, that's what we do. We're not actors, man. We don't want to do anything different than that. The truth of the matter is, your fans want to see that, but in order to grow your audience and to have something that people share, there has to be more to it than that. There has to be an emotional connection of some sort.
I love going back to the story or quote. Hall & Oates, I'm sure you're all familiar with him. John Oates said, growing up as a kid, always wanted to be a rock star, learn how to play my guitar, write songs. So I learned how to do that. And I got there, and then I found out, not only did I know how to do that, but you got to look good on a video. He said, extra pressure that growing up you didn't assume.
Yeah.
Of course, today it's a different story.
Today it's a different story, and it affects which artists get signed to labels and all of that. It's a different world.
Not only do you have to sound good, you got to look good.
Got to look good.
So Charles asks a question, what would you say is the largest threat to Vevo?
Largest threat to Vevo, interesting. Pass.
Okay. Anthony asks a lot of subjective questions, but he wants to know, what would you consider your top 3 accomplishments since working for Vevo?
I think I've developed some things that have helped Vevo become a more recognizable brand. Something that I feel like people understand what Vevo is more now than they did when I started 3.5 years ago. When I started, we do market research, so we often, get data on what, how many people are aware of the name, how many people know what the name means or what we do, all of that. In the early days, a lot of the feedback we'd get was, oh, Vevo, those are the guys that put ads in front of my music videos on YouTube. That was the typical music fans' interpretation of what we were. Some people didn't really understand, but I've done some things. Some that are incredibly simple, like putting the Vevo logo in the corner of the thumbnail of the video on YouTube, so that when you search for something at a glance, you can tell which is the official music video. By doing that, I think people have learned to equate the Vevo brand with the official quality premium video. I created a program called Certified, which is our sort of gold or platinum record for the music video. When a video passes 100 million views, an artist is awarded for that and recognized for that. We create some content around it, and this year, for the first time, we're going to be doing an event, which is sort of not an award show, but an event celebrating videos that have 100 million views. So that's another one that I think has helped establish us with artists. Artists now compete for that honor. They try and encourage their fan bases via social media to, be the fastest to 100 million views, to set the new record for most views in 24 hours, all of those sort of things. And I feel like that's really helped us establish our place in pop culture more than it was a few years ago.
Here's a question.
We've also created some cool shows.
Cool shows.
Yeah.
Joseph asks, in a recent Billboard article, it was mentioned that YouTube would soon become a paid subscription-based service in a year with services such as Vevo costing users $2 a month. Do you see these actually happening? How would it affect things?
I don't know of those plans specifically. I think that might be actually more of a premium option for YouTube, similar to Spotify or Pandora, for example, where you get the ad-free version if you pay a certain amount per month.
Right.
I have heard that they've considered that from time to time, but as far as I know, that's not imminent.
People are doing their homework here. There's one here. Frederick says, the announcement of Vevo is offering a software development kit for phone apps.
Mm-hmm.
Partnerships with Vevo will soon be available to many third-party developers. What is the goal that Vevo is attempting to reach by making such available?
It's really, in business terms for us, it's driving views, because driving views allows us to run more ads, which allows us to get more money from our advertisers. So the idea is, with the SDK, a developer who's creating an app, a good example is somebody I met at South by Southwest a couple weeks ago in Austin, who's created an app that allows you to, it's a messaging app. I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place. It's a messaging app that you can, has a library of images, has a library of video, etc., that you can include in your messages. And it can be contextual, so that if you type the word Gaga, all of a sudden a list of Lady Gaga videos, this is his vision, list of Lady Gaga videos will come up and can be included in the message that you send. So using our SDK, that's possible. Somebody could have our library of videos available in their app that way. We're in very early stages now, so we're working with only 2 or 3 partners right now. We haven't figured out, okay, how many times is an ad going to run in front of that video when it comes up in that messaging app? What's the consumer tolerance for that? What's the app developer comfortable with? What's the revenue model? Does the app developer get a portion of that revenue? If so, how much is that? Or is the benefit to the app developer simply that they have the content that they wouldn't have been able to get otherwise? A lot of things that we're trying to figure out that way. But the SDK's, eventually, really long term, looking at it, it's a way to expand our reach and to be in even more places.
All right. Here's a nice question. It comes from Ashley. How important are music videos in creating an artist's success in the current industry?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
I think it's hugely important. I feel like it is a key part of any major artist marketing plan. If you try and think of examples of artists that have broken through over the past couple of years, it's hard to come up with one that wasn't video driven. There are a few, Mumford & Sons, for example, a few years ago was probably more radio and television driven. In the country world, there's some things that are more radio driven. But when you look at pop and the biggest hits and the biggest new artists in pop, it hasn't changed much from the TRL days, where the video is kind of that key piece that introduces people.
When you say it's more important in the pop universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in the pop universe.
I think when you were working back in Denver at a retail store, you worked at Wax Tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So people would go in and they could buy an album or a CD, and there was artwork.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the digital downloads, there's no face or artwork. I don't know how many of you care when you buy something, you want the song more so than the visual that comes with it. There may be some exceptions because what you guys aspire to do. But I think I know it's serious, there's faceless bands.
Mm-hmm.
And those are artists or musicians who have great songs or a great song, but there's no visual connection, because who are they? Who is that person? Because the visual hasn't sunk in, and with the lack of artwork available, you used to listen to music and you could follow the lyrics along, or could see who the personnel were or played on it, and there was artwork, so that the artist had a face to it, and there was a complete package. With digital downloads now, you're just getting a song, and without that music video, I think you're missing a piece of the puzzle to make it. And so when you say how important it is, if you want to take it beyond just an interesting song that people like, and you want to have a career as an artist beyond that song, I think it's really important that you have some visual representation, and the most efficient way, correct me if I'm wrong, would be a music video.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back to before the birth of MTV, and particularly late 80s, or I'm sorry, late 70s to early 80s, when British bands created music videos, the British artists created music videos because they couldn't afford to come to the US and tour, but they wanted to have a face in the US. Artists still can't tour in every city in America, right? And there's no album artwork. There's all of the reasons that Steve just said make the video, the only way that a lot of these artists can actually show their face to people in these towns that they would never tour in.
Then I think the corollary to that is there are artists that are video artists that really need that, because that's more of what they are than the actual songs and the music.
I mean, there are a number of artists, and big pop artists whose video streams, are 100 times higher than their single sales.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not uncommon.
I wonder if Blurred Lines had not started as a video virally, while it's a great song and a song of the year, would it have caught on in the same way without that initial visual support?
Yeah, there's no way. I think it's a great example of what a provocative video can do, a good video.
Clever and crafty, and all seem to work together.
And,
yes,
sex
sir.
sales.
I have a question. Since Vevo is partially owned by Universal and Sony, and you mentioned, for example, the live streaming when it could cost, let's say, Madison Square Garden, and you speculated $100,000. Okay. Is there somebody really smart? Let's say it was the Foo Fighters or something like that. Is there somebody really smart at Sony in their accounting department who is somehow able to make the Foo Fighters pay for that through recoupment? Do you think there's that?
Not in this case, because we're the ones spending that money, as opposed to the labels being the ones that are spending the money. So we operate very independently from the labels. Different budgets. Our profits, our bottom line is different than their bottom line. So, for example, if we book the Foo Fighters and we say, okay, we're going to shoot their show at MSG, we're the ones paying to bring the cameras in. We're the ones paying to pay the venue fee, to bring in the additional lights if we need to get the clearances we need, all of that sort of thing. That's financed by us, not by the label. So it comes out of our programming fee and our programming fund, our production budget. And we look to offset that by getting a sponsor on board to say, oh, it's American Express presents the Foo Fighters, and guess what? They're helping us underwrite the cost of that production.
But wouldn't there be times, Doug, where the label would want that live performance of the Foo Fighters for a home DVD release or possibly a live album, and they'll contribute to the costs, or say, we're going to pay for this because we want to own it?
I always wonder how much I'm allowed to say in
okay.
situations like this.
Okay. All right.
But no, but it's fine. I'll share. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but one of the challenges of our business model and of our agreements with the record companies is that they were written by the record companies who created us, right? So you can imagine if you're a lawyer for Sony and you're writing an agreement for this new company that Sony owns about how they're going to get their content for Sony, it's going to be to Sony's benefit. So one of the key ways that manifested itself for us, is the way our arrangements work is, everything I said is completely true about the Foo Fighters. We pay to bring the cameras in and the lights in and to do the editing and all of that. But at the end of the day, because Sony Music Entertainment is the owner of the master recording rights for the Foo Fighters, we take that content that we spent $100,000, $200,000, whatever it is, producing, and give it to Sony Music Entertainment And they technically license it back to us to exploit and can use it to sell on iTunes, to put out a DVD, to give to NBC, to do whatever they want with.
But it still begs the question of who actually owns that master. But that's another,
They do.
That's another conversation.
They do, not us. Oh,
Well,
I see, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying for it.
Yeah.
All right. Did that?
So that's a little in the weeds, but yeah.
Another good theoretical question. Mel asks, how do you envision Vevo influencing future generations as far as the music they listen to?
Oh, God. I'm
It's a
sorry.
responsibility.
I know. I was gonna after you know the tape that talked about our Lyft developing artist program where we, you know, took responsibility for
You're not
one
going to wash
direction.
your hands.
It's a little scary.
You got to take some responsibility here.
Yeah, no, we do hope to turn people onto some really great stuff as well, and to create some things that people will, in our original programming, watch and see value in moving forward. It's always challenging as a music lover, somebody who's really passionate about music and very opinionated about music, to not let my own personal tastes get in the way of the things that are actually going to pay the bills, but to find a balance between those two things and be able to support artists, give great artists who wouldn't have a platform elsewhere a platform, but also make sure that we're supporting the stuff that's going to drive the most views regularly. So I don't know if that answers the question really, but it's the best I can do.
Okay. Brittany wanted to know, does someone from Vevo ever attend video shoots?
We send crews to video shoots to cover sort of behind the scenes, making of videos and interview artists in videos, that sort of thing. Yeah, so we do occasionally, and we're getting more and more involved in terms of product placement in videos, and trying to say we have a client who is sponsoring video premiere from us, or buys a certain number of video premieres from big artists every year. Say they want to extend the reach of their spend and have integration into the video itself. So say it's Apple and they're buying advertising around the music video, but they say, hey, you know what, let's see if we can get the phone in the video itself. We're now working to barter those deals with the record companies and artists as well to sell some product placement that the artists will see money from, as well as the packages that we sell in terms of media around them.
Alyssa asks, how does Vevo respond to customers who complain about advertisements before the videos on YouTube and slow video playback?
Oh yes. Well, we constantly strive to improve the buffering and playback, and depending on your connection, I think we're much better than we were a year ago, and so forth and so on. In terms of consumer complaints about the advertising, those are decreasing dramatically from month to month. Really, I feel like consumers are mostly conditioned now to expect that when they go somewhere. I know they irritate the hell out of me, but still I understand the need for them. Just like I understand why I see them on television if I watch traditional television or listen to terrestrial radio. So we basically ignore them. It's honest.
Yeah.
What can you do? We think about, okay, maybe we should do a premium version, but are there enough people that care enough to pay $2 a month or whatever it is to not see any ads? Are there enough people that are going to do that that's going to make it, worthwhile?
Did you have a question?
Oh, just really quickly about the whole speed thing. How do you think you're going to handle net neutrality with the whole thing that just kind of fell apart?
Honestly, not my area of expertise. I can't answer that.
I'm sorry I can't read this person's name correctly. It looks like Maxie maybe, but asking if their video is already available on YouTube, can my views be transferred to my Vevo account?
Interesting. Yes, they can be.
a lot of the same questions, how a video is selected and the relationship with YouTube, but we've answered most of that. Does Vevo eventually plan to break away from YouTube?
I think they'll always be our biggest partner. You know, our goal is to, you know, just continue to grow our owned and operated traffic, meaning our website, our iPad app, our Android app, all the connected TV devices to grow the traffic and views that are coming from that segment. But YouTube's always going to be a huge partner, and they're, you know, a strategic partner in terms of an investment relationship now as well.
Sarah wanted to know what's the criteria for rejecting a music video, but you've explained that
We don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
And then
We won't go into. No, I was going to say there. You know, there are guidelines. We won't put up a video that has, you know, buy my album at www.whatever.com. We have some, you know, guidelines like that you have to follow. But if it's just a music video that follows those guidelines, absolutely, we'll put everything up.
Geneva asks, how does the Vevo Spotlight Artist and video selection work?
I think that's similar to what we covered in terms of, you know, looking at criteria. Is there demand for this? Is there opportunity for us to grow the number of views? Is there social following that can help drive views of that? You know, do they have traction at radio? Are they touring? Are they, you know, how relevant are they to our audience, and to which portion of our audience? Who are we going to pair that video with to reach the right audience? All that sort of thing.
Okay, and I think you answered this, but are both the clean and explicit versions of music videos associated with YouTube in any way? Do you upload them both?
We upload them both. YouTube has a user rating system, essentially, that will age gate a video. So, for example, the blurred lines video. Blurred lines video is actually an interesting case because YouTube initially took it down and then put it back up. But if enough people in the community at YouTube flag something as being explicit, YouTube will automatically age gate that, meaning if you registered your account with YouTube and you're under 13, you won't be able to view the video. And no kid under 13 would ever think to lie about their age and when they registered so they could watch that stuff. So that's 100% ironclad. They'll never figure that out.
I don't think it answers. Brandon wanted, how much money does YouTube take from each play?
They take some, yeah.
You take a piece? Well, Brandon wants to know how you achieved your position, but I guess you talked about that. But the part I guess we didn't discuss is, did you expect to be where you are now with your responsibilities?
Did I expect? No, not at all. No. You know, I was happy when I had my first job at a record company. That was like as far as I had wanted to go, really. I was like, well, that would be a dream come true if I worked there. I don't know how I could ever do that. And so I got there, and I've had to continually, you know, change my goals as I go up. So no, I feel incredibly fortunate to be where I am. I've been helped by a lot of great people and been fortunate and lucky in a lot of ways as well, to be in the right place at the right time, to get where I am and be doing what I am at this juncture.
Anybody have any questions out there they want to interject here? Yes, sir.
In terms of advertising,
Mm-hmm.
is it only national, or if you have a regional advertiser, can you regionalize based on where the viewer is?
Right now, through Vevo, it's all national. We target demos, so you know, specific age groups, races, etc. But we do not localize at this point. We do, you know, internationally, obviously we do. But if you're buying the U.S., you're buying the U.S. at this point. YouTube does allow that functionality for their buying, but it's typically, you know, very small budgets that do that, so it's not a big part of our business.
Is that for technical reasons, or you just find it's not worth it to go regional because there's so much more money for us going national?
Yeah, it's really the scale of the business nationally is going to be so much bigger, and typically the advertising agencies and the brands are buying nationally for the most part. You know, they're not. It's not like cable TV where there's also a local, you know, person buying media in that individual market. So. No, we don't have local businesses coming to us or car dealerships or anything like that wanting to advertise.
So let's say, I use the Foo Fighters as an example,
Yep.
but they go on a national tour
Mhm.
and they buy advertising for the national tour.
Mhm.
Can they have an ad that says in Jersey this week, even though they're buying nationally, but can they segregate?
They could. We can't localize it. We can't target it specifically to that market, as far as I know, or don't. I think we can, but we don't, just because of the work that's required to do that.
Another question Anthony asked, and it's more, again, subjective. What do you think is lacking in today's music?
Oh, God. I don't want to sound like a grumpy old man. I really don't.
You sound like a grumpy young man.
What is missing in today's music?
I mean, Anthony's the grumpy old man because he's assuming there's something lacking.
Okay.
So
all
you're
right,
only
so
responding to
him.
his grumpy old man attitude.
Listen, I actually
Sorry,
think,
Anthony.
I actually think that you can't. If I'm to generalize the state of music in 2014, I actually think there's probably more good music and more interesting music available and accessible to people than there ever has been. I don't think that there's any lack of innovation or talent or imagination when it comes to creating music, and I think that people have better access to discover that music now than they ever have before. You can certainly get into the debate about how vapid pop music is, and you know how Justin Bieber is the devil, and all songs on pop radio are written by the same two guys in Sweden, and you know, nobody writes their own music anymore, and all of that. And all of that is true to a certain segment of the music industry, the biggest segment, unfortunately. Pop. But I do think that it's a great time, both for music and for music video, because the field is wider, is more open than it's ever been before. It's easier for somebody to record. It's easier for somebody to make a video. Used to be, if you wanted to record an album, you had to rent a recording studio that cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per hour or per day. Used to be, if you wanted to shoot a music video, you would have to hire a large crew to do that and have professional equipment to do that and all of that. Now anyone in this room can do both with this, essentially. So I think that fosters creativity, and the fact that it's very easy to make that available to a large number of people, and you know, the YouTube star, so to speak, that phenomenon. I think it's a great time.
Kind of have answered this different ways, but bluntly put, Mike said, what benefits are there for artists to post their videos to Vevo as opposed to YouTube?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think.
In other words, I could take my video and get it on YouTube, or I can post it, I guess, myself.
Yeah. Well, if you're the artist and you're asking me that question, you're the manager, you're asking me that question, there is more revenue to be had. You're going to make more money off of that if you do it through us. Our rev share is more appealing than that YouTube gives directly. You won't have.
So if I give both you and them the same video, a commercial played prior to my video on YouTube is going to get X, but the same video being played on Vevo will get X plus 1. Is that correct?
It's not per play, but in general, our licensing agreements can deliver more revenue based on the fact that we charge more for our advertising than YouTube does.
Got it.
So that's number one. Number two is YouTube is a search engine, essentially. They don't promote. They don't create their own content. They don't help artists in any other way. It is a giant jukebox in the sky where you search for something and you watch it. They do a little curation, but not a whole lot. It's really vastly driven by search. we put artists in front of people. We can, help bring you new fans in a way that YouTube might not. We can create original content with you that YouTube won't. We can be a good partner.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So if you said you take really any videos that anyone gives to you, and that your advertising rate is higher than that of YouTube, why would an independent record label hold out and make use their own channel to promote their music videos rather than go to Vevo?
It's a individual choice. There are some advantages in terms of the amount of control that the artist can have over the actual channel, so to speak. Big complaint that we get a lot of times from artists, which is completely reasonable, which is, if I can just go to YouTube and upload my video in 10 minutes, why does it take, why do I have to go through these 7 steps and have it take a week to get my video up on Vevo, right? So that immediacy is something that might drive an artist to do that. If you don't want advertising in front of your video, your option is really to upload to YouTube directly. So if that's something that you care about, that's a good option for you that way. So I think those are sort of the 2 biggest reasons that we hear.
If you upload it to YouTube directly, they can still put an advertisement in front of it.
But you have the control as the channel owner to turn off monetization in your control panel so that there are no ads in front of the video there.
Got it. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Going back, I had the question with YouTube becoming like the subscription paid service, and because YouTube is becoming like under such heavy fire with artist royalties that they're being like compared with Spotify. That Spotify is such a smaller company, and they're paying so much more royalties than YouTube is as a bigger company. So if YouTube has to like start relying on a paid subscription service to start paying more royalties to artists, and they do have to do the $2 a month Vevo and start charging people, how do you see Vevo adapting, or with their viewership, would you try and go back to your own website as like a standalone?
I'm not sure that we've even been planning for that, because we don't think it's the direction that it's going to go, I guess is what I would say. We're always going to want YouTube as our partner. They're a great partner. They deliver huge audience for us, and we think that whatever they do, whatever they develop, is only their goal is the same as ours, to drive views and to bring a bigger audience. So whatever they do is going to do that. And so we're gonna work with them as closely as we can. I don't think I envision a day when we'd say, oh no, since you're charging for videos now, we're gonna take them down and ask everybody to come to us, because again, we're not everywhere that artists want their videos to be seen. We're not everywhere where music fans want to consume music videos, and YouTube is.
Anyone else? Well, then I'm going to thank Doug for taking his evening and spending it with us out here in New Jersey. And those of you who want to watch music videos, now you know where to go. Vevo. So thank you, Doug.
Thank you.